Welcome back, YouTube and Facebook. This is Rich again, back for a video blog. And today's video blog is about a tribute to game show host Chuck Worley, who passed away on November 23rd, 2024, at the age of 63. Chuck had a 61-year career in the world of entertainment. He was an actor, a singer, a game show host, and a podcaster of political things during the final 10 years of his life. Chuck was born in Ashland, Kentucky, and after high school, he served 2 years in the new U.S. Navy aboard the USS Enterprise. But it's not the spaceship from Star Trek. It was a naval ship. After Chuck got out of the service, he became a consultant for a wine consultant for a company called Lawson Storm Wine and Import Company in Columbus, Ohio. Around the early 1960s, Chuck became part of a band playing bass and sang on a folk song called The Bordermen. Later on, he joined a duo group called the Avid Grete with Bubba Fowler. They actually signed a deal with Columbia Records, and they had some decent success with a song called Naturally Stoned in 1968, which was a decent hit for them, reached the top 40. It actually reached the top 30 in Canada. Then Chuck left the Avid Grete and struck out on his own as a country music singer, signing with Columbia. He sang some decent songs, which were okay, but they weren't top 40 hits. And then he went into acting. He actually was Mr. Dingo on New Zoo Review. He actually was in a couple movies in the 70s, including The Treasure of the Jamaica Reef, which starred Stephen Boyd, Rosie Greer, and Cheryl Ladd of Charlie's Angels fame. Chuck actually appeared on the revived version of Your Hit Parade, which was produced by Chuck Barris Productions. In 1973, Chuck appeared on The Tonight Show, and he was spotted by somebody who worked for Merv Griffin Enterprises, who were working on a game show pilot called Sharper's Bazaar, and they tapped Chuck Worley as host, but the Sharper's Bazaar did not get picked up as a series, but it got retooled as Wheel of Fortune, which a couple of pilots were hosted by Ed Burns, famous for Kooky on 77 Sunset Strip, but Ed was drunk during those pilots, and Chuck returned to host another pilot of Wheel of Fortune, and he got the job as host. And Wheel of Fortune premiered on NBC on January 6, 1975, as a replacement for Jeopardy!, which was canceled by NBC, but Merv Griffin had 1 year left on his contract with Jeopardy!, which he created, and Wheel of Fortune went in its place. And within a few weeks, Wheel of Fortune became the top-rated game show throughout daytime television. It made Chuck Woolery a star. He also appeared on Tattletales with his then wife, Joanne Flug, who was a regular on game shows, including Match Game, The Hollywood Squares, Password, the $20,000 Pyramid, Crosswits, and a few others. Also, Joanne was a rotating co-hostess of the revived version of Candid Camera in syndication in the 1970s, and actually was appeared on the first season of The Fall Guy as the head of the bail bondsman for Coach Seaver's bonding company, Samantha Jack, aka Big Jack. But anyway, Chuck also tried to revive his singing career in the 1970s with the popularity of Wheel of Fortune, but it didn't become successful. And in the late 1970s, Peter Marshall, the host of the Hollywood Squares, suggested that Chuck could be a successor to host Hollywood Squares, because even though Wheel of Fortune was a hit on NBC, not too many people were attending the tapings. They had to get like a soundstage audience. A couple of times Wheel of Fortune was tried to sell for like nighttime syndication, but very few stations picked it up in the 70s for once a week, but they didn't go for like a nighttime Wheel of Fortune in the late 70s. By 1980, NBC was going to cancel Wheel of Fortune. The target date was August 1st, 1980, and they were going to have a Today Show at midday, replacing Wheel of Fortune. But at the last minute, NBC decided not surprisingly renewed Wheel of Fortune, as they was going to have the rap party, and Merv Griffin got a substantial raise for Wheel of Fortune being renewed by NBC, and Chuck Woolery actually asked for a raise because Wheel of Fortune was a big hit at one time. He was only getting paid $65,000 a year by Merv Griffin Enterprises. He wanted a raise to get paid $400,000 a year to host Wheel of Fortune, and that would be on par of the top game show host of the day, Bob Barker, on The Price is Right, was making $500,000, and Richard Dawson, hosting Family Feud, was making $500,000 as well. But Merv Griffin said no way. He only offered a raise substantial to about 400, about 40,000 more. And Chuck decided to leave Wheel of Fortune at the end of 1981, and he was replaced by Pat Sajak. But Chuck, after Wheel of Fortune, had a successful career hosting the game show Love Connection for 11 years between 1983 and 1993, famous for saying 2 and 2, 2 minutes and 2 seconds. Scrabble, which had two runs on NBC from 1984 through 1990, then again in 1993. The revived version of the dating game in syndication for 2 years, 1997 through 1999. Also, Greed on Fox Primetime for 1 year in 1999-2000. Also, he hosted TV Land's Ultimate Fan Search for several episodes in 2000, and his final game show was Lingo on Game Show Network and GSN, which ran for several years between 2002 and 2008. Chuck also did promo work for Game Show Network and GSN, and actually he had a reality show called Naturally Stoned, which was based on his top 40 hit in 1968. And Chuck also hosted a couple of talk shows. He actually hosted a daytime talk show, the Chuck Woolley Show, in 1991, which only lasted 4 months. They had celebrity guests. Wasn't controversial at all. 1991 was the year that everybody hosted a talk show, and he also hosted a cable talk show called Home and Family, which was one time on the Family Channel, which was eventually Freeform for about a year in 1997. After Chuck stopped hosting game shows, he became very political. He hosted a syndicated radio show for 2 years, and for the last 10 years of his life, Chuck hosted a podcast, and some of the subjects he talked about was very, very conservative. Some of them got himself in trouble. One thing that kind of got himself in trouble, saying that COVID-19 um, virus was fake. But when one of his children got it, he just backed off on saying it was fake. And basically all the stuff that Chuck said with the controversial stuff kind of ruined his television career, but he made a few appearances, like on a game show documentary for ABC in 2003 and 23, and Fox Nation streaming service 80 Quiz Show in 2024. And Chuck also was a spokesman for Gold back in the 2010, and very, very sad that he passed away recently. And the golden age of game shows from 1972 through 1985. That's when probably that was the most successful part of game shows ever. There's only 3 game show hosts still alive from that era. Wink Martindale, who's going to be turning 91 in a couple of weeks, Bob Eubanks, who's 86 years old, and Pat Sajak, who is 78 years old. All 3 are still going strong, doing stuff, and hopefully they're around for a long time. So rest in peace, Mr. 2 and 2. Be back later with another exclusive video blog. Bye now.